Good evening, everybody, and welcome back for some more EGFC Rocket League action. I know there's a lot of letters being thrown at you there, but whether you understand them or not, we're going to have a great time tonight. I am Septilins, joined here by McFarlane to bring you one of three games. He's actually bringing you 7 across the 2 channels, but we are going to start with 3. We're going to be starting with the University of Connecticut up against Butler. McFarlane, these teams, we were talking about this earlier, these are both some powerhouse matchups here.
Yeah, I called Butler last week, and they looked really strong. Their offensive game was strong. Their rotations were really crisp and clean. They had some good clearances. They looked like a good team, but they're going to have a tall order here against their opponent here because they are just another hugely offensive, huge powerhouse team.
Absolutely, yeah. University of Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken, and I may be, but I'm pretty sure they made it the top 4 last season, which is a Herculean task, to say the least. You made it all the way, fought tooth and nail to make it there. Whether or not they made it that far, they're looking great this year. They've been very strong. I don't believe they're undefeated, but I believe they are darn tootin' close. I believe they've really been giving us some good action up to this point and some great progression. Like you said, you got to call Butler. I don't think I've had the chance yet this year, so I'm very excited to see what they're going to be bringing to the table.
Yeah, no, like I said, along with their power clearances and their strong offensive game, their defense is good as well, and they have some really crisp rotations. When they're in the O zone, they have a man sitting midline ready to attack, but also ready to defend at a moment's notice. They have a really good rotational pattern. Their communications are really strong, and they put together a really good set last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And this week is going to be the same as always. This is going to be a best of 5. One of the teams needs to win 3 games to secure their victory here today. And it's going to be, we've said it already, I'm going to say it again, this is going to be a toss-up. These are 2 teams really coming out the gate strong. We're here in week 4, so we're getting close to that pivotal moment where the wins really start to matter. So each loss here is going to be even more damning than the previous. Either way, I'm hype. I'm super excited to be jumping into this. I hope we've got something goofy, at least one of these games, a scarab, a battle bus, whatever it may be. They're hysterical. I get a kick out of them every single time. But knowing these teams, like I just said, these wins, they are crucial. So we're actually going to have to throw it to a super short break. We're having a couple of tech issues with the players, but we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes. Don't go far. going on, everybody? Welcome back once again. Still Septilence and McFarlane here. We got all those tech issues figured out. All 6 players are back in lobby, and they are rip-roaring, ready to go. McFarlane, immediate guess here. I'm going to put you on the spot. Who do you think walks away with this, Butler or UConn?
Oh, come on,
I'll
man.
answer next. Don't worry, you're not alone.
All right.
But I want you to go first.
I'm going to take Butler because of what I saw last week, how strong they were. I'm going to take Butler. I'm going to take the sleeper team.
I'm gonna take UConn. I'll be your opposition there. I'm gonna take UConn, but I'm gonna say 3-2. I'm gonna say it's gonna be close. I don't think anybody's closing the door right after it opens. I think these teams are really gonna have to fight for what they want today. UConn in the orange, Butler in the blue. 5 minutes on the clock here in game 1. Pressure now coming out. It's going to be Munch early from Butler, who finds that ball control, gets a little bit of possession, but it's going to be stolen away. That 50-50 kind of matchup currently happening. Your traditional game 1, where nobody's really overextending, pushing the envelope too far any further than they have to. They want to get a feel for their opponents. And right now, I've got to say Butler, you know, it's early, but it feels like they're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, no, and that's what I noticed the last time they played too. There was about maybe 15 seconds where they would feel out the other team, and then they were right on the ball. The only problem I noticed with Butler the last time I called over their game is they will sometimes overextend on the offense. You got to keep an eye out on that.
Yeah. Absolutely, triple committing is such a dangerous thing to do. You know, leaving that goal wide open. We have seen teams lose entire series because they left a goal open for 5 seconds. So I really want to see if Butler can touch up that, especially as we move forward out of game 1. They haven't made that mistake yet, but like you said, you know, there's a decent chance we'll see it at least once.
Yeah, no, and it happens to everyone. It's not just a Butler thing. Every team. I know I was guilty of quite a few times when I played for Siena. It happens to everyone. Yeah,
absolutely. Leaving a goal open, we've seen the best of the best do that before, so it's really a difficult thing these teams struggle with now. I mean, we're almost a minute and a half, almost 90 seconds off the clock, and nobody's been able to find that goal yet. I still feel like a majority of this has been Butler on the offense, kind of forcing UConn to fight back. UConn hasn't really been given the opportunity to be the aggressor, to be the team really forming the engagements, and Butler, they really are not letting up. If they're able to keep this up, they will crack through UConn's defense eventually.
And that's kind of how Rocket League works, that you can only sit in that pressure for so long. That they'll keep pouring it on until UConn can get that real good clearance and hold the ball into the Butler zone. They're not going to find themselves any offense.
Absolutely. You know, I always say you cannot win Rocket League with just a good defense, right? You've got to have that solid offense. You've got to have at least a decent opportunity to get in and find that engagement. Now, maybe you can play defense and kind of go off those opportunistic play styles where you just find a great shot moving forward, but that's also a dangerous thing to do because that play style depends on your opponent screwing up. And with how clean Butler has been playing so far, screwing up doesn't really feel like it's in the cards for them right now. This might be the first goal. Off the crossbar, goes for the double tap, but no. Has to give up on the offense. Going to turn around. Here comes Kai. A little bit wide of the ball, unfortunately not able to find it. Now going to be kissing that halftime goodbye. Half of the first game already down. Not a single point on the board yet.
Yeah, and it's really just it's a classic game 1, right? This is how game 1s usually go. I didn't see it as much last week with Butler, but it seems like there's more of a feeling out process. Despite the fact that they're in the driver's seat, they haven't gotten those clean grade A chances, right? They're getting good shots on net, but they're kind of, you know, they're okay shots, and that's just the thing. For Rocket League, especially at this level, at the collegiate level, where every team is competitive, you need those grade A shots, otherwise you're not going to convert.
Absolutely. I think you've made a great point there. Is you can get close as many times as you want, but close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right? You've got to be putting that ball on goal. I'm using too many OA words here, but now a minute 45 left. Butler still, they're trying to find that hyper aggression. They've peeled it back a little bit. It seems like they're trying to play a little more 50-50 style, waiting for the ball to come to them. But UConn, I feel like UConn is still really struggling to find those engagement options.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of things that could go into that. You know, it could be game 1 jitters. It could be just the communications are breaking down a little bit, or it could be just some unsureness in your own play. There's a lot of things that it could be, but I do like what I'm seeing from UConn in terms of their transition game. As the game has progressed, they're definitely getting the ball deeper into the Butler zone, which is only going to help them.
Oh my goodness, and Butler getting deep into UConn zone as well. They're almost able to find a goal, but Munch can't quite lock it up. We saw Butler, something I want to jump back to, a very small mistake, but one that could cost them if UConn pays attention. We saw a double commit on the defense there when they were blocking goal. There were only 2 defenders, and both of them went after the ball. So had there been even one more player from UConn to tap it and change direction, that would have been an open goal. So maybe 5% more communication from Butler in terms of who's going after what could really help them avoid situations just like that one. But it's finally disaster there with the help of Anton, just punching it in, giving UConn that first point with less than a minute left on the clock.
Yeah, and that's something that's very important in this game, right? Power clearances, get the ball up and out of your zone, especially with a team like Butler, who's really offensively minded. You need to get your clearances, and you need to have power behind them, and that's what you saw right there. You got the power clearance, and then the really nice setup that allowed UConn to take that late game 1-0 lead.
And that is a crucial lead, right? I mean, only 40 seconds left on the clock. UConn, they only need to win by 1 point. That's the beauty of Rocket League. You don't have to get flashy. You don't have to win by 2 or 3. You've just got to win by that 1. UConn might be able to take game 1 here 1-0.
Yeah, and that's kind of shocking, despite given the amount of offense that Butler was on all game long. But like I said, they didn't have that many grade A chances, despite the fact that they were in the offensive zone for most of the game. So I think as we go into the half, unless they convert right here, that's something they need to probably talk about, is getting more grade A shots on that, and that's exactly what's going to happen. UConn's going to take game 1.
Yeah, I think I almost want to say it's kind of that physical player fatigue a little bit that we saw. And I know that's crazy to bring up only at the end of game 1, but Butler really was coming through strong. They were getting hyper aggressive. They were on the ball for, I mean, the first 3 minutes of the game, right? But then as we got into the latter half, I feel like Butler fell off the offense, and that really came back to bite them.
Yeah, no, they did fall off. I think they kind of turtled up, especially after UConn scored that goal, right? They scored that goal. It looked like they got a lot of mojo behind them, some confidence behind their game, and I think that really helped propel them through the last 40 seconds of the game. So if I'm Butler, definitely trying to get the first goal of the game, right? Because that comes with so much momentum. Rocket League is such a mental game. You get that first goal up on the board, you're flying high. You've got your momentum behind you, and that's just crucial.
Yeah, the only game that I would say was more mental than Rocket League would be Smash Ultimate, but both of those games go so hand in hand of your mental is almost more important than your physical, which sounds so crazy, but the second you let yourself get boomed, the second you kind of peel back the professional curtain and, you know, you start to get a little anxious, that's when players really start to crumble, and I hope we don't see that here from Butler. UConn played it strong, coming through super hyper-aggressive there at the end. They were able to find some great value. Butler, they can use this time, they can use this couple of minutes to discuss, okay, what went wrong?
Yeah, definitely, and this is a high-level team. I saw Butler play last week. They have a very strong team, and I have no doubt in my mind that they'll come out flying this next game. I don't expect that they're gonna lay back. I don't expect that they're gonna lay off the offense. I think they're gonna keep the same play style because it worked for them. It looked good for most of that game.
Absolutely. And I'm super excited to see what's going to be brought to the table. They've got to look at every game as a GG go next, and if we've seen Butler do one thing, it is exactly that. I had the pleasure of meeting Butler's Overwatch team just a couple of weeks ago at an event that I was working, and if their Rocket League team is anything like them, they've got to be an absolute hoot to hang out with. But, you know, to peel back the social aspect and focus more on the professional, I do want to say, you know, Butler, they came in strong. They weren't able to pick up game 1, but as I predicted, I can see this going all the way to game 5. I can see this being a 3-2.
Absolutely, because both of these teams, they're playing to their strengths, right? Butler's relying on the offense, and oh my, wow. That's exactly it. Butler relies on their offense. Maybe their defensive game is a little bit weak, as you don't see the power clearance right there, and that's just devastating for somebody that's got to try and get out of their zone. They're relying on their offense. They need to get that ball out of the zone. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do it. A turnover proved costly there.
Yeah, so this is also one of those momentum-based games, right, where we saw UConn find that first goal, find that first opportunity, and now they're just running away with the lion's share of momentum. They have come through. They've picked up another one, notably way earlier, 4 minutes earlier than the last goal that we saw. So UConn coming out much stronger here in game 2. They're ready. They've kind of found the play style Butler wants to bring to the table, and they're going to look to take advantage of that. That, of course, is going to bring to the table, how fast can Butler adapt to not become predictable to UConn?
Yeah, no, and that's very important. The being able to transition your game mid-game, it's a very difficult thing, but it's the telltale sign of a very talented team, right? When you're able to take your game, you're able to take your play style and say, all right, the offensive game isn't working. Maybe we need to roll it back a little bit, focus more on passing, on defense, on clearing the ball. And that's something that I'm sure Butler can do, and that's something that most of these teams in this collegiate league can do, is be able to transition their game and focus on trying something different when it's not working for them.
Trying something different, you know, a very double-edged sword. It can work out great, but also if you fall out of your comfort zone, it's much harder to adapt and kind of fall into a new play style. But knowing these teams, I mean, Rocket League, all about adaptation, right? That this game, to its core, is about adapting against your opponent. Every single person you play against is going to have a different play style, and right now, Butler, it is their time to adapt. It is their time to shine. 3 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock. UConn, they're up by 1, but Butler, they're putting up a pretty aggressive fight here. However, Disaster turns 1-2, doubles the score, and UConn walking away with a 2-0 lead here, 3 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, and that's a real nice touch right there by
Absolutely.
Joyce. Gets it up off the backboard and sets up Disaster right at the base of the net. He gave Butler's defenders really almost no chance to get to that ball. That's a really difficult touch to make when the ball goes slowly up to the backboard like that. And by the time you're up, the ball's coming back down, and then it's a tap in just like we saw there.
Anton finds the demo onto Astro and, rolls it in
Wow.
from downtown. You get demoed from beyond the grave. An open goal just walks itself in all the way down the field. Butler separates it only by a single point.
Yeah, and you know what? That's both of UConn's defenders went to get boost, it looked like, which is fine, seeing as the ball was down in their zone. I don't think they were expecting that slow roller like that, but that's something you did. That speaks to the kind of core of Rocket League, like we were talking about, how fast the game can switch up on you. I mean, you got to be on your toes 100% of the time, and when you're not, stuff like that can happen.
Yeah, as a wise man once said, we absolutely take those, right? I mean, Butler, it's a rough goal. It's a weird one. It's incredibly lucky, but you get the point, and that's all that matters. Now you've got 2.5 minutes, 120 or 150 seconds to tie this up and just tie it up, try to take that lead, make it 2-2. But Anton trying to put that final nail in the coffin, putting UConn up 3-1 just underneath that halftime.
Yeah, and that was a great read off that bounce right there by Anton, because it went up in a really odd direction. You wouldn't have figured the ball to go up like that off that pinch, but he read it very well, and he was able to just had the control, the aerial control to just guide that ball into the back of the net. That's a really skilled read and a really skilled shot.
It's so funny because these players make this game look so easy. It's incredible. I'm sure you probably don't feel the same way because you were these players, but as someone who doesn't play this game traditionally, I cast it so much more than I play it. Watching these guys play, and then I try to go and mimic what they do, it's incredible how difficult this actually is.
Yeah, no, it looks so much easier than it plays, and that just speaks to the talent of these players when they make it like when you watch, say, a football game or a hockey game, and the team just makes it look like everything they're doing is fluid and second nature, and then you get out and try and do the same thing, and it's so much different. That's how Rocket League is. It looks so much easier than it actually is, and it really does speak to the talent of the players in this league.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of the talent of players, here comes Droids from the heaven. Anton, I've got to say, Anton has been connected to every goal from UConn so far. Whether it be an assist, whether it be his own goal, it is a phenomenal opportunity. But, I mean, Anton, clearly the glue holding this team together right now.
Absolutely, and that's something you need. And it's not always the same player, right? Sometimes you'll have one guy come and lead the way, sometimes it'll be another guy. But the fact of the matter is you need that glue. You need that guy that's going to guide the team to victory, and that seems to be Anton right now for UConn. He is involved all over the place offensively. He's in the right place at the right time, and because of that, they're taking. They're taking. But that right there, wow, that was really
incredibly
nice
smooth, incredibly clean there, coming out single-handedly. Kai just dancing around Disaster there. A great juke around the right side, knocks it in. Now 2-4, only 82 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, that's plenty of time in Rocket League, though. Two goals can happen in 20 seconds, let alone a minute 20. So plenty of time for Butler to get back into this and score 2 more goals.
And with the way they've been playing the last 30 seconds, I mean, it feels likely. It feels possible, to say the very least. A great disruption there. They're going to clear it back toward the third of Butler. Here comes Disaster around the right side, or on the left side, excuse me, probably going for a midfield setup. However, Butler getting a little more aggressive than UConn expected. Going to be able to find some action here. Sets up toward midfield, but what a demo from Droids. Going to put down Kai, make it a 3v2 in favor of UConn. The goal goes up, and it is found. Astro, with the help of Munch, going to be able to put that third point on the board. 51 seconds. Only 1 point separates these teams from an overtime.
And that's a great set by Munch right there, right? He's able to elevate the ball up and over that defender that's challenging him. The other 2 defenders are kind of flat-footed on the base of the net, and because of that, they weren't able to get up in time to get that ball. That's a really nice passing play by Butler to get them within 1.
It's so incredible. You just talked about how, so much can happen in 30 seconds, and then look what's happened in 30 seconds, right? UConn, they are now only winning by a single point. It was 1-4 at one point, I believe, and now we are all the way up 4-3, 33 seconds left on the clock. Butler, they are close, but 30 seconds, this is where they've got to get a little bit worried about that clock.
Yeah, no, and it will start to bleed down faster than you expect. Like you'll say, oh boy, we've got 40 seconds. That's plenty of time. You look back up onto the clock and you'll see 15 left on. So you really need to get your offense moving. You need to get the ball out of your zone. That clock will bleed away quickly on you.
Oh no. I thought that was going to go right into goal, but instead, a bit of a slow rotation, cleared down toward the goal of UConn. Here comes Munch from the midfield. Disaster finds the disruption, goes right up and above. Going to come down to 2 seconds left. We're now in that extra time. The second the ball touches the ground, UConn walks away with game 2. Butler so close, but so far away. 2 games in a row.
You almost feel like they waited too long, though. It took them so long to get their offensive feet beneath them. You know,
Yeah.
they were playing well for most of the game, but really UConn was in the driver's seat for I'd say about 85% of that, and Butler didn't give themselves enough time to get all the way back into that game. However, we did mention previously that this is a very momentum-based game. It's a very mental game. Butler can very easily ride that momentum and come into this next game absolutely flying.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to consider that we're looking at a 5-3 scoreline across both games. Game 1, reminder, folks, was 1-0. Only a single point was scored in that process. So game 2, both the teams getting a little bit more aggressive. We're looking at that 4-3 instead. And like you said, momentum, that's what it's all about. Butler scored the last 3 goals of that game. Let's see if they can carry that momentum into game 3. Can they push a game 4? Can they push us further into the series?
I firmly believe that they can, but it's all about how UConn responds to that late push by Butler. If they come out flying, if they come out, dominating the play like they were most of that game, it's going to be a challenge for Butler. But if Butler keeps that momentum, Butler keeps that play that they had at the end of that last game, there's absolutely no reason why they can't push this to a 4, maybe even a game 5.
Yeah, I would love to see that coveted Game 5. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen one. We've had a lot of shutouts here in the EGFC recently. I'd love to see Butler really turn this around, take us up to that Game 5. But it's all going to come down to, I'm going to say, it's not all going to come down to who finds that first goal, but that's where momentum is really going to lie, is who picks up that first opportunity, who can keep that momentum moving forward here in Game 3.
And we've seen in games 1 and 2, the person that scored the first goal won the game. Granted, Game 1 was a 1-goal game, but Game 2, UConn scored first and they won the game. Yeah, the first game, UConn scored first. They scored the only goal and they won the game. I really think that first goal of the game is a real momentum. It really gets the team's wheels under them, and that's probably going to be an important deciding factor as to who takes this game.
Yeah, 100% agree. That first goal is it's good for the mental, it's good for the literal. You go up 1-0. It's just good for so many things across the board. However, we're down less than a minute, or more than a minute, has already been taken off the clock, and not a single point yet. This is feeling very reminiscent of Game 1, but Butler trying to make my dreams come true. Astro can't line it up quite yet. Anton will find that defensive block. 3:37 here going up. Kai tries to get that momentum off the ground. Oh, what a pass to Anton, though, unfortunately. Not exactly the player you were looking to pass to. UConn, a great opportunity on goal here.
Oh, man. And Butler's playing some fantastic defense. Both teams are playing fantastic defense, actually. Butler, with that shot earlier that made a desperation save was made by UConn. And right there, Butler made a great save to keep this a level game. But that is a beautiful setup play by UConn right there to take the lead. That is absolutely gorgeous. And there it is, Anton again. Another assist off the backboard. And Droy's quickly gets it into the back of the net, puts UConn up by 1.
Connected one way or another. I don't think we've had a goal from UConn yet without Anton attached to it somehow, some way. I've got to say that was a great example of what we talked about earlier of the defense. Just you keep slamming the ball toward goal, eventually it'll break through. In UConn, they did just that. They kept trying. I think it took 4 technical attempts before they were able to finally slam it in. However, a goal is a goal. UConn finding themselves up 1-0. 3 minutes on the clock, though. I mean, that is years in the world of Rocket League.
Absolutely, and Butler knows that. I'm sure they do. They've got plenty of time on the clock, but you don't want to get complacent either.
Right.
You don't want to take too much time making your plays. Don't make it too fancy either. Right now, your backs are to the walls. You lose this game, you lose this set. So what I need to see from them is I need to see some power clearances, like I mentioned earlier, but I also need to see not passing so many times before they get the ball on net. Not, take those chances, take those dirty shots. A goal's a goal, no matter how pretty it looks.
Yeah, we saw that earlier, right, with an accidental goal from 3/4 down the field. I mean, as long as you put that ball in goal, that is exactly what you need to be worried about. Now Munch goes for a double tap pass. Oh, knocks it into the ground though. Unfortunately, Butler was not in the right spot to catch that out. Gonna pass ball control back to UConn. Munch though comes for that secondary attempt. Here comes the tertiary try, knocked a little bit off to the left side of field. Now the action back in favor of UConn, moving toward the goal. Butler desperate to turn this one around. Kai able to do just that. Astro off the wall, gets it into the left corner. Running out of time, 2 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, 2 minutes. It's still plenty of time, but really, like I mentioned, how fast does that clock bleed away? We were just talking about how there was over 3 minutes left in the game. Butler had plenty of time. Now there's only 1:45 left in the game. That clock will bleed fast, and they know that. They need to get on their horse.
Yeah, and it's so funny because 3 minutes is such a different amount of time in game than it is in real life. We're like, that feels like so long. They're like, no, it's 3 minutes, but you don't know what 3 minutes in Rocket League is like. I mean, it is truly eons of time. It is infinity. But now we're down to only 90 seconds left on the clock. Butler really struggling to put that first point away. I've got faith they can do it, but at this point, it feels like they're racing the clock a little more than they're racing UConn.
Yeah, and it seems like a repeat of game 2 where they're waiting too long to get their offense going. Despite the fact that the score line is the same as game 1, UConn has been absolutely dominating this game so far, and Butler's really not showing any signs of life in the offensive zone. Oh. And of course they are.
Yeah. Hey, caster curse, timing is everything. That's what we do here. That's what we're here for, to make sure things just like that happen. But Butler, they show those signs of life just shy of that 60 seconds on the clock. There's a very good chance this goes to overtime, but there is just as good a chance that it doesn't, especially with how aggressive we've seen these teams really kick it up in the final 60 seconds of each game so far.
Yeah, and who's going to ride this momentum? Is UConn going to go and get that goal to get their lead back, or is Butler going to take this game as they just scored the last goal? That's important, and that's what I'm excited to see here.
Butler no longer has to worry about racing the clock. They just simply have to worry about finding the goal. A double missed defense, though, from Butler. Oh, my goodness. That could have been disastrous. Astro and Kai both missing the ball. It almost rolled itself right home. Now Butler not going to be able to do much other than play defense, and they don't even get the chance. As disaster comes through with the help of who? Anton. As always, UConn finding themselves up 2-1, only 29 seconds left for Butler to stay alive.
Yeah, and this all goes back to those two misses by the Butler defense. If they were able to get that ball out, that chance doesn't happen, and it's so crucial to get your touches. It's very easy to miss your touches, but it's so important to be crisp, be clean, get your car on that ball. That's what you practice for. That's what you play for. As soon as you miss that touch, it sets up an opportunity like that where UConn has eons of time to just put that ball into the back of the net.
Yeah, 100%. But Anton, that's the nail in the coffin. 12 seconds left. UConn going to be able to put themselves up by 2 points when it matters most. That is, unfortunately, it's not impossible for Butler, but by golly, is it unlikely.
Yeah. 12 seconds left. They need 2 goals. They would have to, pretty much what it's going to come down to is they need to get 2 face-off goals, right? I mean, 12 seconds is not a lot of time. It's certainly not impossible, but as we're getting down into the single digits now, impossibility is starting to set in.
Absolute. Even if they find one more at this point, they'll just lose the series 3-2, or the game 3-2, the series 3-0. UConn walking away with a 3-0 victory. I've got to say, though, I mean, Butler, there were signs of life. Absolutely. There was some great defense there. 2 of the games were practically pointless until the very end of it. So I think Butler has some definite signs of life. But like I mentioned earlier, UConn, they are the team. They made it to Final Four last year. Seems like they're looking to do that again this year.
Yeah, and it's important to note, too, how close was this series? None of those games were decided by more than 1 goal. It was 1-0, it was 4-3, then it was 2-1. Every single game was within 1 goal, and I think that speaks to the parity of this league, where it looked like UConn really dominated. They really didn't in terms of the score sheet, because it was very, very close all the way through.
Yeah, it's one of the situations where you're like, oh, UConn 3-0'd? Like, that's crazy. Of course they did. But then you look, by a single point each game, Butler was this close every single time to being able to turn the series around. But unfortunately, like I said earlier, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. We're going to throw it to a super short break. We're going to try to get an interviewee in here from the University of Connecticut. And we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes.